and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about 9 things I learned while giving up coffee and caffeine. This has been an over 2-month journey for me. I quit coffee and caffeine back in roughly the end of May. Now, total transparency, I still do from time to time have a cup of decaf coffee, but it's very rare now, and I kind of just use it when I, for whatever reason, really want to have a cup for some reason. And it's like I said, it just becomes less frequent over time. But I have had 0 caffeine in that time, so not even any tea or anything like that. So without further ado, let's get into it. First off, hunger. I find that I am more in touch with my appetite now, and I didn't really think I wasn't in touch with my appetite before. I mean, I've been eating carnivore for, at the time I was doing this, it was about 14 or 15 months of carnivore. So I had been doing it for quite a while. Still, I didn't realize how much of an appetite suppressant coffee actually was. Now, we know it's an appetite suppressant, but I didn't realize that I was probably under eating as a result of that. Now, in terms of consuming liquid calories, it's not something that I do. So even when I had coffee, it was quite frequently, if I had any kind of creamer in it, it was very little. Something on the order of about 50 calories. I'm not someone who does these huge coffees with tons of butter or anything like that. Now, occasionally I would add an egg to my coffee and blend it up, but it would be 1 egg. So still not a significant amount of calories overall. In terms of overeating, this wasn't really a problem for me as a result of of coffee. I wasn't having huge amounts of coffee, and it wasn't a significant source of calories for me. But if you are someone who is doing a lot of coffee with a lot of butter, these bulletproof coffees or things like that, then it can be, in essence, overeating. It can be drinking your calories, and it can lead to weight loss stalls. Now, for me, I find that I have actually maybe a little bit more natural feeling intermittent fasting now, but I also find that my fasting is actually less on the most part because I am working out nearly every day and I have a pretty intense workout. So because of that, I find that I actually do need to eat about 2 meals a day, and I'm usually hungry by about 11 o'clock or so. So again, I'm intermittent fasting when I'm not eating. I'm intermittent fasting from maybe 6 or 7 o'clock at night until the next day at about 11. But yeah, aside from that, I think it's really helped me get in touch with my appetite and figure out that considering the workload that I was placing on my body, I was probably under eating. The next thing I learned about was thirst. So I feel like I am more in touch with my thirst now. And again, this is one of those areas where I really had no idea that coffee was having this impact on me. Now, coffee is considered to be, in essence, a net hydrator, but I actually found out that I think it was causing me still enough dehydration that it was a problem for me. I feel like I have better hydration now, and as a result, I feel like I have better sleep. I will find that I drink water throughout the day, and then usually naturally at night, I stop drinking any fluids now. Whereas before, I would find myself drinking fluids well into the evening, right up until bedtime, and sometimes a lot of fluids. And then I would, of course, have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. So not having that and sort of just having this natural wind down where I'm sort of naturally not too thirsty at night because I think I've hydrated so much during the day. And then again, I wake up the next morning and I seem to be falling into natural dry fasting. Now, not for extended periods of time, but again, if I'm not having anything to drink from maybe 6 or 7 o'clock at night, I usually don't have anything to drink until maybe 7 or 8 o'clock the next day. Now, it used to be when I woke up, the first thing I had to do was get something to drink. It didn't matter whether it was water. Normally, it was a cup of coffee right away. But after I quit coffee, even initially, I had to have something to drink first thing in the morning. And so that would be water. As time has gone on, I find that I can wake up and I'm not thirsty. So I don't drink anything. And sometimes 2 or even 3 hours will pass without me having anything to drink and without me getting thirsty. The third thing that I learned about during my experiment to quit coffee and caffeine was addiction. Now, I realize now how addicted to caffeine I actually was. And for me, there was a big difference between half a cup of coffee and no coffee at all. I had gradually worked my way down to half a cup of coffee and spent at least a week there and thought, yeah, man, I got this. And as soon as I go to no cups, I shouldn't have any problems at all. But when I went to 0 cups of coffee a day, I had serious withdrawal headaches that were actually quite bad. Now, another thing that looking back in retrospect, I was also having usually an afternoon soda, like, one of these, healthier sodas that's made with stevia or something like that. But the sodas still had caffeine in them. And I realized that I was, that caffeine was adding up. Now, when I quit coffee altogether, that caffeine or not having the caffeine in the morning was enough to leave me with a headache, and for almost all day. So for the first 3 days, I actually would just kind of push through. I drank a lot of water. I had a lot of salt and electrolytes with my water. And eventually, sometime in the afternoon, when the headache became sort of relentless and I just couldn't stand it anymore, I would usually take a Tylenol or something like that and have a little bit of that soda because it would work to get rid of the headache, especially if I took it in combination with Tylenol. More on that in a second. Now, the last thing around the addiction of coffee is that I was drinking more than I realized. Now, normally we made a full pot of coffee every day. That was 12 cups. And now that I don't drink coffee anymore, my wife makes a 4-cup pot of coffee. And she doesn't even always drink all of that. Now, typically, we would drink a full pot of coffee in a day between the two of us, which means that I was drinking the vast majority of that coffee, a lot more than I thought I was. Next up, I did learn about coping with these temporary withdrawals and headaches. So I would just say, like I've previously covered, a little bit of afternoon caffeine can help. You can use that for a few days to help kind of wean you off. If you have severe headaches, it can be enough. Just drink enough to sort of help get rid of the headache. Another alternative to this is Excedrin migraine. Now, Excedrin migraine actually comes with a little bit of caffeine in it already. And so if you don't know, basically Tylenol and the things in Tylenol are actually absorbed more quickly when you have caffeine with them. They are processed more quickly than by the body as well. So it can be beneficial to have a little bit of caffeine either in your pain medicine or to have if you just have regular Tylenol or something, just have, enough sips of a soda that's not going to, derail you, and just enough to help cope with that headache. Next up is cravings. So coffee cravings, I definitely had them, but I did notice that they did diminish over time. Initially, I had a lot of coffee cravings, and it was just a matter of telling myself I'm not having coffee today. I've quit coffee, and originally my experiment was just quit coffee, and no caffeine for 30 days. And that was the challenge that I set for myself. That's another tactic that I take, is I like to set challenges and goals for myself. And if I present it as a challenge to myself, a lot of time, or even just an experiment, then a lot of times it's a little bit easier for me to get through it. Now, in terms of the taste of coffee over time, like I said, I have occasionally been having a decaf cup of coffee whenever I just get these cravings or these thoughts in my head that I really need a cup and I just can't get them out of my head. Then I go ahead and just have the cup of coffee, but it's decaf. And I find that when I have that, first of all, it really helps me to deal with the cravings in the long run and to sort of kind of wind those down. But I've also found that the taste of coffee now is not really as enticing as it used to be. So over time, that sort of taste for coffee and craving for coffee diminishes because you're not having it. And then when you have a little bit of it and it doesn't taste as great as you once thought it did, I actually think that helps to get past this coffee craving as well. One thing I will note is that the smell of coffee over time doesn't seem to change. It still smells amazing, but the taste definitely is not the same as it used to be. And I don't have the cravings for the taste of coffee as much. And I do still enjoy the smell of coffee though. So now let's get into the benefits that I noticed as a result of quitting coffee and caffeine. First up, this one is not going to seem logical at all, but my productivity has gone way up as a result of quitting coffee and caffeine. Yes, I have more productivity. I've noticed more creativity. I also have a lot more motivation and I have tons of focus. I can sit down and just knock out work like I could not before. I have all the focus I need and I don't need to take breaks as frequently as I used to when I was always drinking a ton of coffee. Now, this seems counterintuitive because a lot of people use coffee for productivity, but I actually find that I am now really a lot more productive without any coffee at all. The next thing is energy. Now, I do know that people also use coffee for energy, but like I said, I was about 14, 15 months carnivore when I started this experiment. So I was already used to having energy and used to using and burning my own fat as energy because I was also used to intermittent fasting and even extended fasting by that time. So I didn't really have a problem with energy beforehand, but I noticed after I quit coffee that my energy was actually even better, and I did not anticipate that at all. I now have consistent energy and more energy. I no longer have any kind of afternoon crashes at all, and I don't even feel that need for coffee or soda or caffeine in the afternoon, which occasionally I would feel, but that was pretty rare. But even that is gone now. So definitely another benefit of getting rid of coffee and caffeine was, again, counterintuitive, more energy and better energy. Next up, well, there's definitely financial savings. I am saving money by not spending money on K cups, which are quite expensive, or any coffee for me at all. I mean, my wife still drinks coffee, but like I said, she drinks much less than I do. And Starbucks, which I wasn't really drinking Starbucks before. Pretty much when I went carnivore, I quit drinking any kind of Starbucks because they just don't sit well with me. And I think it has to do with the dairy that they use. I don't know what is up with the dairy that they use, but it is something that I've noticed. It upsets my stomach when I have any kind of coffee at a Starbucks. Lastly, weight. Now, I didn't notice any weight loss, but I also didn't notice any weight gain after quitting coffee. And I wasn't really sure what to expect in this area. I thought there was a potential that maybe I could gain weight if I ended up actually being hungrier and eating more. But I also thought, well, maybe I'll lose weight because maybe the coffees that I am having, maybe there still is a significant amount of calories that I'm actually drinking. Like I said, I never had very much creamer in my coffee. I intentionally put very little in there, but it's just hard to know the actual impact until you do something. And I do notice that I do eat more now, but again, eating carnivore, that hasn't translated into like this huge weight gain for me. I really noticed no difference at all. So those are the big things that I noticed and learned as a result of my experiment to quit coffee and caffeine. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Have you quit coffee? Have you quit caffeine? What did you experience? Do you have any benefits that you experienced that I didn't? Like I said, let me know down in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great day.